So we're talking about labor shortage here today, obviously probably due to the pandemic. But before we go deep into the subject, I want to know how the pandemic affected all of your enterprises. And Nicole, I'm going to start with you.
Hi, everyone. For me, without the pandemic coinciding with the BLM movement, I wouldn't have had my brand. So it really propelled my brand forward. A lot of companies sought me out to help them connect to a target audience that they didn't think was important at the past and now wanted to make that investment. So I made a lot of success and a lot of headway in really just amplifying the things that I was doing in the past through 4 Brown Girls, but now in my own kind of world. So the pandemic was a blessing to me. A lot of reflection, but a lot of things that, like I said, propelled me forward in the industry.
And apart from 4 Brown Girls, can you tell people a little bit about your business and what you've been able to do?
I've been able to network like crazy. Really being that person in the room that my white counterparts call me a unicorn. But I'm like, no, there's millions of us. It's just that maybe you don't see us or look for us. Mm-hmm. So it really expanded my network tremendously and helped me at that point really create this idea called Blackspo, which we'll get into later on. But really networking was the best thing that came out of it for me.
Amazing. Thank you. Emanuela, you're next. Tu peux le dire en français, il n'y a pas de problème.
Donc, well, I'll say it in English, and
Okay.
sometimes I'll switch automatically.
Pas de problème. On va parler du
Well,
franglais.
it's interesting because before the pandemic, like I would say, 2 weeks before, they said, okay, pick up your kids, it's done. I was on a flight from California, coming from a conference with Facebook Oculus Launchpad on virtual reality. And I came back, and then I realized, okay, you have a couple of hours to do groceries. So beside eating to, make up for what's going on in the world, I had a contract with, it helped me a little bit with my platform, because we did a lot of pilot projects and got paid for pilot projects. Our platform is, like you said, leveraging virtual reality. So we had a contract with ACBN in Ontario, the Afro-Caribbean Business Network. And I had met with one of their members, back in a panel, here, and told her what I did. And she said, okay, whenever I get funding, because they are a nonprofit, and they help Black entrepreneurs improve their businesses. And they said, you know what? It was during the pandemic, they got this funding, and they want to find a way to help entrepreneurs break isolation and also interconnect. And she knew I was had this platform that I was working on. Back then, I had 2 environments, being that I'm in educational technology, so I love to design environments to help people kind of use for their self-care and also take care of themselves. I've worked in EAP and help others on the field before. So then we developed this platform, this environment called Ubuntu, which means, I am because we all are. So I designed different spaces in that environment that would allow their members to come and interconnect, and we were able to do 3 events on the platform for their entrepreneurs during the pandemic.
Okay, fantastic. Daniel.
Well, the pandemic was a real challenge for us. We launched in 2019, Kivo, so we were doing all of the legwork to have our official launch in 2020, but we were hit early because manufacturing in China was already slowed down. So we felt this in January. While we had the official pandemic announcement here in March, we already felt it in China. Factories were closed down, there were delays. So we made the decision to postpone the launch to October 2020. So right then and there, that was a delay. And we felt it was necessary because, no one knew what was coming. We didn't know what the realities were for the pandemic. Mm-hmm. We had to deal with rising shipping costs as well. So we just said, you know what, let's weather the storm a little bit and let's see things through. That was the right decision. That extra 6 months allowed us to sort of reset the strategy and really, I mean, the topic today is going digital and making sure that we're up to speed. So while we were already well equipped with a website, we started off doing a digital sampling program. As you can imagine, as a food and beverage brand, launching, you want people to discover and you want people to taste your food. But when there's no in-store samplings, when there's no food exhibitions or food festivals, very tough to do so. So we had a digital sampling program, and really that helped us get a lot of success. We shipped thousands of samples, and that really helped us gain awareness
And I actually got one of those samples,
Yes,
and that's
you did.
really what's so funny, because I didn't know you were the face behind Kivo, and I buy Kivo, and I knew it was this company that someone said you have to taste their stuff, and you have to see it's really good, and it's plant-based, it's fantastic. And I did, and for you to be sitting on the stage right here is kind of cool and kind of an honor for me, because I want to delve into your business and how you are transforming it digitally, if it's even possible. But also, you know what, I'll continue with you and I'll ask you that. You said 2019 is when you launched?
So we had our public launch in 2020, but we started working on the project in 2019.
So 3 years, how have you seen the company transform in terms of digitally?
I think, it's funny, and first of all, I got to say it's an honor, Catherine, to be here with you on the stage. You're doing amazing work in journalism in the country, so please don't be modest. I think, when we were doing the work in 2019, we absolutely wanted to, focus on e-commerce. That was part of the strategy from the get-go. The reality, though, is once the pandemic hit, every single person and their mama was on e-commerce, right? And so what that had as an effect was really skyrocketed the prices of doing digital marketing. So Facebook ads got more expensive, YouTube ads got more expensive. And so for SMEs to really compete in that space got really expensive. Influencer marketing costs rose up a lot. So there was a big difference between doing online marketing pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. And so for us, the shift we've seen is we had to decrease digital marketing spends a little as well, just because honestly the costs were so high. But we built relationships in the food sector. We have a broker, a distributor, and the great thing about being an F&B is while you can still rely on e-commerce, you need to have a strong distribution network, and you need to really lean into that. So we did that, and then moving forward, we're working on R&D. So coming out with research and development for new products. So we're working on new products that we're hopefully going to launch next year. And so we've seen that evolution pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and now into a post-pandemic world with trying to innovate and launch new products.
Fantastic. Okay, Nicol, I have so many questions. And I know the audience has a lot of questions. We're going to get to them in just a moment. But I have to ask you how you have used the pandemic to your advantage in terms of networking, you said, but also where are you hoping to grow your business in the next couple of years and really take off and show us what's next for you?
Definitely. That's a loaded question. In terms of how the pandemic, like I said, pushed me, propelled me, it's really important to understand that it intersects with the BLM movement, right? So this need for the government, companies to kind of catch up to what we've been experiencing, just being this idea of there's so much money being pumped in, a lot of resources being pumped into the Black community, a lot of people wanting to just understand a little bit more about the Black community. So that intersectionality is really where I live. This idea of connecting brands to their target audience, and with this and with my history with 4 Brown Girls and giving us spaces, safe spaces where we can speak about microaggressions, speak about these different things that plague us in the workforce. And then there was something that I forgot her name, that she had said.
Miriam?
Yeah, Miriam had said about being a jack of all trades as a master of none.
Yes.
That's something that I've really grown up as. I call myself the wanderer. Like, where do I belong? Like, where do I fit in? Like, I have these talents, but I don't know how they can just work all together. And that's where this idea of Blackspo came along. So Blackspo, in essence, is a job fair that's going to be held virtually and in person, virtually national, so across Canada, where we're connecting forward-thinking companies to Black talent. So really removing this concept and reshaping this idea of us having to tap dance for the company, pun intended, and making sure that the company tap dances for us. So this is going to be done through like proprietary algorithms, like almost like dating sites. So like how you're matching a company with a candidate, seeing beyond like bottom line, but also company culture, values, morals. So making those connections so that the company understands how to recruit this new talent force, which is the millennials and Gen Zs, understand and demystifying this idea of retention. So if you're connecting on something bigger than just, okay, you're paying me 6 figures to do X, Y, Z, how am I invested in the brand, you know? And so that's what Blackspo does in essence. And when I say like this is just marrying all of my talents and my passions, because I get to do something for the community. I get to network. I get to exercise my legal skills. I get to exercise my marketing skills because this event is going to be like representative of the swag of Black culture. So that's like in essence, like I said, when we talk about the pandemic and just this idea of wanting more than just the average thing, right?
And I want to ask you something. A lot of people during the pandemic who have enterprises or who are public speakers, like, or, you know, with you and Four Brown Girls, Daniel with Kivo, Emanuela with all of her works, do you find that a lot of non-Black companies and presidents reached out to you and you found it emotionally taxing that they were, you know, really coming to you because you were just Black and so they needed somebody to represent?
Exactly.
Did you find it emotionally taxing or did you use it to your advantage? And I'm going to ask you all of that. Did you use this period that we just went through for the past 2 years as your advantage to then step up and say, well, they're listening to me now, so I'm going to freaking show out?
Yes.
Did you use that, or were you like, enough is enough, don't call me just because I'm Black? A little bit of both?
A little bit of both, right? I got laid off, right during the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, and my whole rebranding strategy for the company I was at was really using the fact that you're the only Black person in this space and amplifying it. So I was like on this journey prior to the pandemic, and yes, it is annoying for people to kind of seek you out or think that you're being validated just because of the time period.
Yeah.
But I'm really seeking to kind of reshape that rhetoric so that we can use it to our advantage. There isn't a huge door being open. It's like this tiny little crack.
And that's why I keep telling people, get into it.
Get into
and then
it.
teach others.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like it's a tiny little crack.
Yeah.
And I'm doubling down on just this idea of vulnerability, of being open in my community, right? Because often, like, we don't want to share this with this person, this person's competing with us, like this crab in the bucket mentality, and really just doubling down, like I said, on my vulnerability and having faith in my community that this conversation might get me that next contact, might get me this next contact, might get me this next. So that's really what has been happening. And a lot of people who weren't doing it before are doing it now and really embracing the camaraderie in the Black community.
Emanuela, I'm going to leave you the platform to say a few words on that. Did you want to add to this?
Well, I would say that, you know, I like when she talked about like the platform, and I see that there's, like with our platform, Cogni, we're leveraging more like immersive technology. And what we've noticed, at first we were like, okay, we're just gonna create different environments for virtual reality. But because of the education background, I added LMS, so learning management system, in each of my environments. So that means if your HR people, you know, wanted to meet, then they could actually have a presentation, and the presentation that that someone would show here, then we would implement it in our virtual world. So you choose, okay, I want it in asynchronous or synchronous, meaning like, okay, I want to have a host, a beautiful host has an avatar. So we have your avatar in the environment, you know, doing exactly what you're doing with your hand movement. And then we would have, you know, the presentation, and also you could have people meet in between to do the same thing. So I love what you're saying about, you know, leveraging technology to be able to do that. And I would say also there's one thing that I've noticed is that although people had Zoom fatigue during the
had what?
Zoom fatigue.
Oh, yes.
During the pandemic,
yes.
but at the same time, you know, when we started with, you know, virtual reality and getting people on, doing events, because it's so new and it's not for everyone, we had to implement, like we had to kind of say, okay, this is nice, but then people still need a different way to connect. So we had to implement like the video conferencing and add AI to leverage. So there was one question I think that you asked, can we leverage, you know, technology to improve certain facet of businesses? And I think if one of the tools that I've used in the past that I would say, well, not in the past, right now, is artificial intelligence, if it's used safely, right? Because there's things that we're doing that takes time. And like, for instance, for us, before we were just, okay, offering the environment, and now we've implemented AI, and we're able to, when you want therapy, for instance, or you have a request, or you have a new employee, so they send a request from your website, and that request can be analyzed from our AI machine learning, and from that analysis, we are able now to create a profile. And then that profile now tells us, okay, this person, these are his needs, and this is how we can help him. And then the therapist could leverage that to their own advantage, because there's 20 to 57% of people, when they go either in therapy for the first time, after the first session, they quit. They drop out because they don't feel maybe the connection. And a lot of the time, you know, if we've noticed that a lot of Black people now are taking care of, you know, their mental health. And when they go to therapy, exactly, when they go to therapy, they don't want to have to educate, you know, the person in front of them about their culture or about how to take care of them. So they want that person from day one to understand the background, but that person doesn't have that background sometimes. So I think with AI, we could leverage those certain criterias to help actually people.
That's a very important point. I have a girlfriend who was seeking a therapist during the pandemic, and we got into it only because I was like, well, it doesn't matter what color your therapist is, and she's like, it does. And for me, I kept saying it doesn't because my parents are white, and I was adopted when I was 7 months old, and so I have this mentality of it, you know, it doesn't really matter, she'll still understand. And whereas she has you know, she's from Ghana, and she has a strong, you know, cultural background, that for her, there were some things that her therapist needed to understand in order to move forward to teach her. And so I'm glad that you're saying that, because it opened my eyes, and so, you know, really allowing people here today to understand how important that is. Mm-hmm. It's just one little thing, one little step in moving forward, so that's fantastic. So I have another question here before I get to the audience. Quelles sont les méthodes rapides qui peuvent aider à résoudre les pénuries de main-d'œuvre? So we're seeing a lot of labor shortages lately. So what are quick fixes where we can help in that?
Well, to start, I would say that there were, you know, labor shortages before the pandemic. I don't know why people seem to think that it just started.
Well, I think because we're seeing it a lot more, like restaurants. Sorry, I'll give you an example. You know, there's big hotel, the Four Seasons downtown, cannot hold parties because they don't have staff. Yeah. There are restaurants who have certain schedules because they don't have enough employees. My son walked into a restaurant, walked out with a job within 5 minutes. You know, it's easy now to find jobs in that domain. So what can we do to kind of fix this issue? And why aren't people going back to these jobs?
Well, I think that a lot of people have done the transfer. A lot of people are going towards technology now and are seeing, like, you know, why go work in maybe a restaurant when I can be anywhere around the world and work remotely? That's one thing. And I think also the fact that, you know, the pandemic kind of opened the eyes of many people, and a lot of shift has been done in terms of, you know, questioning who we are as individuals and wondering, you know, what's next? Do I still want to be in that path after when this is finished? So I don't know if it's necessarily, I wouldn't have a solution today. I would say that I'm leveraging technology, and I think that a lot of people are doing that shift. And for instance, there's a platform called Ripen, RIIPEN, and you know, I've been having so many students, so I've been leveraging my platform with students. So I would need machine learning, AI machine learning project. I have like 12 students, sometimes I have 15 students, I'm like, no, I can't take any more with University of Toronto, like, you know, Australia. And around the world, people are like helping us build this, so at the same time, I could understand that there's a shortage, but there's so many people out there, and with programs like MyTax that are helping us also, you know, recruit students. So I think that there's so many things that are there to help us leverage what we need, that maybe we don't need to go recruit in, you know, do the regular things that we usually do, like go to Emploi Québec, mettre une annonce, wait, and there's so many bureaucracy around it that we don't have time for this. So I think that's...
Daniel, I'm going to go off of what she said. She said something about, you know, we have employees now that are working remotely. Why are they going to go and work in a restaurant and that sort of thing? Do you think it's time that, you know, it is improving the work environment a viable path, knowing that the COVID-19 situation changed the way people work and do business?
Absolutely. I think, you know, what Emanuela was saying is that there was a labor shortage before the pandemic just really amplified it. And so, but we saw this trend coming with baby boomers going into retirement, and really, you know, in Quebec in the last couple of years, we haven't had as much immigration. So there was a lot of contributing factors, but I think, as Emanuela was saying, we really have our eyes open. It's a new world. It's, you know, and employees now have, I would say, the opportunities and the advantage really to choose where they want to work, how they want to work, right? And flexibility is a big topic that we've been talking about since the pandemic started. It's still here. And by the way, the labor shortage is not going away for the next decade. It's going to be here. So employers really need to adapt to, okay, you know, first of all, how do we market ourselves to employees in order to attract the types of employees that we want? And number two, and maybe more importantly, what do we do to retain the employees that we currently have, engaging in them and really investing in them so that they understand the mission and the vision of the company and really feel like they're a part of it. And a lot of, you know, what we've been talking about is the Gen Zs and the millennials that are driving some of these changes because, you know, they are really wanting to invest in companies and work in companies that are making a difference and that really are about making real change and are purpose-driven. So I think employers really need to make that pivot. I think there's been some progress in the last 2 years in terms of DE&I. It's something that we've heard a lot, but I think we're still really early innings there. Some companies do it for PR or, you know, just as a checking the box, but there's some companies that are really practicing what they preach and investing in really revamping their whole recruiting strategy. So, and I think youth, right, investing in youth in terms of getting new employees, that's, you know, using interns, getting them in to your businesses. Maybe in the past it wasn't a strategy, but I think that's an opportunity for businesses. And also looking at new immigrants that are looking for opportunities as well. Because a lot of times they haven't had those opportunities. And so I think in terms of the labor shortage overall, from a macro standpoint, we need to diversify the talent pool.
Okay. Do you think Black workers are at a disadvantage in the labor market?
Yes and no. And honestly, everything you guys said, like, I want to echo everything you said, because that is really the driving force behind what I'm doing, is reinventing and disrupting how we do recruitment, and really putting the onus on the company to be accountable for not only what they're saying they're going to do, but how they actually do it. And also putting the accountability on the candidate to really have this idea and vision of what they want to do and try to figure that out to make sure that they make the right connections. I broke it down into, like, this is the marketing side of me. I broke down my event into like 3 personas. So I have the student, I have the entrepreneur slash professional. That entrepreneur professional, they know what they want, they understand this work-life balance, they have this awakening of sorts. And then you have the wanderer, which is, like, I consider myself that not sure, but it's just really ready for that spark. And then also breaking it down in industries, right? So, like, we've been told as immigrants, like, you're gonna be a lawyer, an engineer, you know what I mean, a doctor,
or a nurse,
you know, like, those are the fields, but also like just kind of highlighting this idea of operations, highlighting this idea of creative, right? This idea of also tech, which is this conference. So really showing that there's way more opportunities out there, and really demystifying this idea that I can only make 6 figures or only really make it big if I am in those traditional professions.
Yeah.
So
Such a myth. Such a myth
Huge
today.
myth.
Okay, so I'm going to take questions from the audience, please. We have a great panel here. Soyez pas gênés. Français, anglais, vos questions. Oh, je pensais que tu te levais pour une question. Nobody has a question? Oh, is she coming to the mic for a question? No one has a question? I'm shocked. Vraiment? Personne? Je continue? Okay. All right. Okay, so we're talking about technology today. What are the tools or initiatives that can help Black workers succeed in the labor market? I'm going to start with you, Emanuela. What would be, in your opinion, the best tools?
Well, one, I would say I'll give an anecdote. I remembered before I developed this platform, I developed a game, and a card game.
Do you have the name of the card game?
Yeah, it was the same name of my platform. I just leveraged the name for my Cogni.
Okay.
Now it's Cogni XR, right?
Okay.
So it wasn't very difficult. And so this card game was joking around with my friend, and she said, I dare you to go to the Dragon. And I'm like, oh yeah? Okay, great. Don't dare Emanuela. So then I applied, sent it in, they called me in. I'm like, oh gosh, they did. I had just received my card game from China, and then I'm like, I went there, not really knowing what I was doing, and then for sure, like, I wasn't ready, so I didn't get a deal, but then they sent me on downtown they gave me a tent, and they said, you're gonna go validate your public and see if teachers are interested in your card game, because it was for education. Good, I'm there, and then someone comes in, and she's like, you're saying that this can help with, improve vocabulary and do this and do that, but you can't put this because you don't have the research to back it. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Oh, I'm receiving all the information. For sure, I was Black, she was Caucasian. And I said, thank you, like, I'm receiving it and I'm gonna look into it. What is it that you do, blah, blah, blah. The next week, I was registered in a PhD for educational technology. I'm like, I'm gonna show this girl that I'm gonna do the research and show her that, there's a way to leverage things in life. And my research is on, leveraging virtual reality from an engagement for kids that have challenges in school. And we're doing it, I'm gonna do it in Saint Michel, in Louis Jo, and there's another school in on Jarry also, because I wanna see how we could leverage technology to help, youths improve engagement in schools, because I don't know, by doing all the research that I had to do, I realized I didn't even know that when you are in a neighborhood, you live in a neighborhood that is socio-economical like lower than challenged than the others, automatically you go in school and they give a ticket. Automatically.
Right.
You have difficulties.
Yeah.
So many of our youths are having that ticket, that tag, just because of how much their parents have in their pockets. So not only that she opened my eyes, all because she pissed me off, but now I'm doing research on
Now
it.
you have your card game.
Exactly. So,
I like that. Yes. That's amazing. What about you? What are the tools that we can benefit from?
Well, I mean, we're definitely talking about digital today a lot, and I think we have to lean into it. And what that means is using platforms like, LinkedIn, for instance, to really network and to go to events, shake some hands.
Are we using LinkedIn properly?
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
don't think many people use it properly. I think there's some people that use it properly, but there's still, we need to demystify LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is, in essence, an opportunity.
A lot of people call it professional snooping.
Well, it's a little bit about
Yeah.
a little bit about that, but it's an opportunity to brand yourself and to reach out to,
Like-minded people.
like-minded people and people that are in your industry or professionals that you're really interested in learning more about. And I think just reaching out and asking for a 30-minute chat or, pre-pandemic, we would ask for a coffee. But just, a lot of people are open. So I think it's Nicole's got a tremendous platform that she's building. I love the, bringing employers to you. Yeah. But we still need to, I think, be more visible and be more aggressive in promoting ourselves. And you can create your own website. If you don't have the experience or the resume that can compare to other candidates, showcase the work that you've been doing, whether it's creative work, whether it's other projects, through your own website, for instance. Not a lot of people do that, but recruiters love to see that. It shows initiative, and it shows that you have transferable skills as well. So networking, putting yourself out there, going to events, shaking hands, those still apply today, even though we're in a digital world.
I love that you said creating your own website, essentially just kind of being your own marketing team.
Absolutely.
Is what you're saying.
Everyone's their own brand.
Yeah,
you have a
that's it.
personal brand, and you have to grow that, nurture that, and having a website is a great way to do it.
Without the networking, there are still some people who are concerned about going out in public. These types of events, a lot of people are staying away from. And so how do you network at home?
There's so many spaces in the last 2 years that have been created, right? We talked about Twitter Spaces, there's Clubhouse, there's
Yes.
Twitter. Our world has literally shifted in the last 2 years, so you can connect with anyone in this world, and there's people in this room that do that very well. Anyone in this world you can connect to if you have something interesting to say, or if you just are curious. So if you're driven by curiosity and you have something interesting to say, a lot of people will give you the time of day, and you can use all the technology, the social media platforms that we have at our disposal to do that.
Amazing.
To segue on that, I think also it's important to do the research first. A lot of people make those connections prematurely. So you could have a connection that you're waiting to pounce on, but you've done the research for a few years and you're waiting for that moment, you know what I mean, in your career to create that opportunity with this individual. So as much as there's things out there, I feel like a lot of people feel that because now you're 1 degree away or 2 degrees away, I can just hit you up. You have to be prepared. You have to have done your research. You have to have connect the dots. I'm all about strategy and researching people. Absolutely. And it's so amazing how transparent people are on social media, where you kind of see what they're doing, what they're up to, on LinkedIn as well, what they're doing, what they're up to, so that you're ready and you're able to leverage that research at that moment in time when you need it the most, when you want to cash in on a favor or cash in on the knowledge that you've acquired, you know what I mean, by watching out on this individual.
And if someone came up to you and said, hey, what's a tool? What can I do? What would be your advice to them?
It's using them all in the sense that they're meant to be used in.
Right.
So how I would use a Facebook is not the same way how I would use a LinkedIn, or a message that I would send out on Instagram in a DM is not the same lingo I would use if I'm sending out an email. Or focusing on introductory, I thrive on introduction emails. So if I see that someone that I really need to connect to.
Can something turn you off right away in an email that you receive from
Of
someone?
course.
Within the first
1,000.
sentence?
Email writing is a
delete.
skill.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Yes.
It's like some people have it,
Yeah.
some people just don't. You know what I mean? And it's that one moment you have to really showcase what you're talking about without being like long-winded, you know, just being to the point, being precise, understanding and valuing their time and energy, and appreciating that. It's not, we're not entitled to anything, you know what I mean? Everything is earned, and just showing that respect in those communications make a difference as well.
Amazing.
I wanted to add
Yes,
to
absolutely.
this an Excel sheet. I've learned recently, you know, like make an Excel sheet with all the names of the people that you would like to meet or grab a coffee with. And I do it for investors, but you could do it for, you know, other people that if they work somewhere that you would like to have an introduction or something, then this person has A, B, C, D. And how do I reach this person? Who do I know that knows this person? And have that sheet that you go through monthly.
I'll just piggyback as well. Nicole said something really important, which is do the research, do the work. And you mentioned something, Catherine. Can you get turned off by an email that you receive? Absolutely. Within the first 5 seconds, you know if you want to talk to the person or not, depending on the level of research that was put into it. But if you take the time to understand the person's reality and why they would be interested in speaking to you, a lot of the times people are looking at it from their perspective, right? But put yourself in a person's shoes. They're probably getting 100, 150 emails, if not more a day. So what you have to stick out. You have to look into their resume. Did you go to the same school? Did you take the same program? Who do you have in terms of mutual connections? What type of project did they just work on? You know, people love to be flattered, and if you can pick out a few things, that will create an automatic connection, and then they will give you the time of day. So it's really doing the research, being strategic about it, and then 4 or 5 times out of 10, you'll get a response.
So I have to talk about ageism when it comes to working and professionals, especially in our Black community. There are a lot of professionals who are 40 plus and who are currently unemployed, who are currently looking for employment. Is the future available to these people? Or, because we talked a lot about millennials. I just hosted an event where I swear I was the grandmother of all the employees. And it's fascinating, but it's also fascinating to see, because these young people are so driven, and it's all about technology and blah. So is there a future for our aging community?
Absolutely. Do you want to take that, or?
No way! Hold on! No! Listen, I'm in my late 40s, and I'm considered very old in the industry that I'm working in. Like ancient, like I have everything going against me. One, I'm 45 plus, I'm Black, and I'm a woman. So I always say, because for me, ageism in television starts at 40. So that's why I said that. But Black don't crack. I know this. Yeah. So yes, is there for our aging community? Yes.
Yeah, I would say absolutely, especially in a labor shortage market that we're currently in. Now more than ever, there's an opportunity for people that are a little older that want to follow their passions or want to, switch careers even, really, because in the pandemic, I was looking at a few studies, and there's a lot of people that shifted industries. They may have worked in one industry for 20 plus years, but because there's so much demand for experienced professionals, whether you're 40, 50, 60, you can switch careers and you can get to work. And a lot of people are also postponing their retirement as well, just because the demand is so there. So we'll see a lot more of that in this coming decade, but absolutely.
I feel,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
I feel that you have to always be your authentic self. So it doesn't matter like the age. it's really about what you bring to the table and owning that. So owning that you bring value to this company and you're not begging. So I feel like just like the mindset and the approach, regardless of age, really is like the key determining factor of opening that door. Yes. You know what I mean? And just reshifting this idea of, I need you. No, you need me, and these are the reasons why. Whether my age is an asset or not, like, you know what I mean? Like, put that in the back. It's really like, what journey did my experiences, how did that shape who I am and why I am going to be an asset for you, you know? What's your offer? You know what I mean? So I feel like it's a mindset more so than an age thing, because that could happen, that enlightenment, that light bulb could happen at 15 for some people and 50 for others,
yeah.
You know? So it's really just important to just stay true and authentic to yourself and really have a tribe that reinforces like your ideals and who you are and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to build, because when you're out here, it's like sad and lonely sometimes, you know, especially like when you get so many no's. So it's really important to just be like grounded in that sense and have that mindset, have that tribe, and really like mind F yourself to believe and show up, because that inexperienced Caucasian counterpart is showing up with like zero experience and getting that job, you know? So we're overqualified. So it's really important to stick on that.
Manuel is dying to add a little something.
I wanted to actually say that I worked with, there was a project we did for, it's called L'Enva, and it was digital transformation for seniors living in autonomous homes. So what we did is tested two tech. One was fall prevention technology that one entrepreneur had done, and another one was just a platform to get them to use services for like massages, you know, buy different things, call for someone to come and clean their homes because they live in autonomous homes. So that was a strategy to keep them longer in their homes. And they were over, I would say, 7 years old. And they've learned that thing very quickly because they wanted someone to come and clean their home. So we taught them how to use their platform. And then they had to write what was the problem with the UI, the UX, and why would they recommend one compared to the other. They were very pleased to learn that. So I think that it doesn't really, like you said, it's not the age, but it's having getting the skills and learning the know-how on how to go about using, you know, the different technologies that it requests. Because I think before you said that technology, you know, we don't need if we need technology for everything, I don't believe we need it for everything. But then it's really rare right now that a company doesn't use it.
Yeah. I'm going to speak on education here. We all know when it comes to Afro-descendants, you know, our parents are very big on education. You must be educated. You were talking about how a lot of, you know, immigrants think about being a lawyer, being a doctor, being a this, being a that. There are a lot of young students out there today with learning disabilities, with, you know, difficulties, barely graduating, may not even go to CEGEP. Is the future of education going to affect them in getting these future jobs? Or are we shifting now and being a little bit more like, you know what, your experience, your street smarts, you're knowledgeable, this will get you as far as someone who has the degree but doesn't have, you know, the personalities to go along with the job. You could have it great on paper but be horrible at the job, and then someone who comes in without the degree might be even better than you. So what do you feel? What's your take on that in education?
It's yes and no, right? I'm a believer in creating opportunities. I started in one path, like I was going to be a lawyer, I was going to be a lawyer, I was going to be a lawyer, until I wasn't going to be a lawyer. And then I'm like, okay, then what am I going to be? Like, what is this marketing thing? I think my passions kind of coincide with that. Let me just like research it more and so forth. And like getting a job without like that marketing degree behind me is almost impossible, right? So you really have to like sell and create your opportunity. And it was because of what people have seen, what I did with 4 Brown Girls, that they're like, well, you don't really have the degree, but we see you did this before. Can we still hire you for this, you know? So there, you can always create your own opportunity. And right now we're in a world where in order to make conversions, you need to connect to your audience, right? And if you are the audience and you really understand that well, there's a place for you, you know? So the traditional trajectory is not as important, I would say, as it was before. Even like in our space, like with Blackspo, we're really highlighting the journey, the qualities of that individual, and the ability to learn a skill set, you know? Just because you haven't learned it before doesn't mean you can't perform it better than someone who went to school for 10 years, you know what I mean? So really reshaping this idea and really disrupting that traditional way of getting a job. Like, I go to school, and not to say don't go to school, you know, but like just exactly. Your journey is gonna go through so many ups and downs, and it doesn't have to be the traditional route, you know what I mean? Especially to disrupt the space, like a TikTok or a Google, even like an EY or a Deloitte. Like, those companies are looking to really push innovation. Like, a lot of, like, on LinkedIn it says entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial spirit, you know? And in order to have an entrepreneurial spirit, you had to have done something, you know what I mean? Like, you had to have created something, and, you know? So that's how I feel like it's changing a bit in terms of education being like
At the forefront.
Exactly, of getting that opportunity.
Daniel?
Yeah, I agree with Nicole. I think technology is disrupting the traditional framework where education is an absolute must. Now, it's still highly
Important,
recommended,
yes.
absolutely, but who here has learned something from YouTube or social media or, you know, Instagram, Facebook? Many of us, right? And so not all the information on there is accurate, but a lot of it is pretty good. So, you know, I think that companies are looking for skills, core skills. They're looking for, is this person a fit with our culture? And increasingly, I think recruiters are also looking at, you know, transferable skills. This notion of maybe they don't have the pedigree or the resume on paper in terms of the education, but have they done things in their own lives where they've led projects, where they've led nonprofits, where they've led something from A to Z, right? And so that is tremendous experience. And, you know, sometimes it's also even more valuable than a degree that you can get. So I think we're at a time where it's less rigid and companies are increasingly being more open about it.
Yeah, and I see education more like I go and get it because I need it for something specific. Like, that's how I see it. If I need to learn about something, then I'm gonna go, like I call Google, I say, I'm gonna go to Daddy Google because he has all the answers that I'm looking for all the time. I'm going on Google and I'm like, okay, this is good, then I can go to a next one and the next one. But you talked about you know, people that have whether they have a disability, intellectual disability. And one thing, for 10 years, I've worked with girls with mild intellectual disability before I switched to tech. And one thing that I've noticed is that, you know, there's a lot of schools that teach them the know-how. And they don't graduate with others, but then they could hold a job. They could go to a company and be the person that, you know, does the printing or do different type of work that doesn't necessarily mean technology. And especially like kids that are autistic, super smart, they could build a computer. So I think that now more than ever, it's like the time where people will not look so much on the disability, but more that what can you bring to us, and which is great for them also.
I'll just piggyback on that. We had Miriam come and talk to us about NFTs. As far as I know, there is no 4-year degree for NFTs, right? Yeah. This is brand new. You learn on it through social media and through literature. But this, like, technology is, you know, rapidly evolving. And same thing for coding. You don't need to go to school to learn how to code. There's kids that are coding under the year 10. So I think that more and more that's shifting, and we see it with real life examples.
Well, this is amazing, amazing panel here. I'm going to let you have a closing word if you wanted to say anything or let anyone know about your business. I'm going to start with you, Nicole.
Thank you. If I were to say anything is in terms of finding that next career, finding that next opportunity, you have to show up. You know what I mean? So there are things out there. Are you doing the work to attract those things to you? You know? So as much as I'm so excited about Blackspo, and I really think I'm revolutionizing the way we get hired by these great, amazing companies, you still have to sign up. You know what I mean? You still need to register. You still need to fill out that preemptive form about like what I'm looking for, my salary, the values. Like you still need to invest and do that time. It's not gonna drop in your lap. So I encourage everyone to visit my website, blackspo.com. We have some interesting companies that have signed on that we're going to be releasing shortly. But we would love to just increase our candidate pool with so many eclectic individuals. And if you're looking to kind of dip your toe in an industry that you felt like was not meant for me, or like I've been thinking of it, but I'm not sure, this is the platform for you to do that. You know, pick your industry. You can be a jack of all trades. You're not a master of none, and it's just finding that right fit.
Thank you. Daniel?
Being in the F&B industry, we started, my partner Cedric and I, to really promote products of Afro descent, right? So that was something that was important for us because we wanted to see more products on the shelves that relate to us. And so, you know, it's been a great journey. And, you know, I want to say that if anyone has, you know, questions or would like to, you know, just what it's like in terms of being in that industry and wants to get into it, feel free to reach out. And yeah, I'd love to share my experience and help more Black entrepreneurs get into F&B and get into those shelves.
Emanuela?
Well, for me, I would say that we are a B2B2C platform, and we are like Cognex or Health. It's a platform. We have two products. One that is a product for one-to-one support, and then we have the Cognitive Collective that is more like for organizations like ACBN that had this project in mind, and we developed their environments for them so that they could help their members. And what's interesting in that, they were able to leverage the product to be able to make money because Never Was Average, Conversation Noire for Black History Month, was able to, they request, we had a talk and then they wanted to use the platform and they were interested in Ubuntu. So what happened is that they've rented Ubuntu to be able to do Conversation Noire. So ACBN was able to get a check for renting their environment that I've created for them on my platform. So if you have any idea, if you're a life coach, social worker, psychologist, or if you know any psychologists that are interested in joining a platform for, you know, to leverage immersive technology, so we develop also for them. We are a SaaS model, so that means that they pay monthly, and we also offer licensing where they can have the logo on our environments, and then they pay a yearly license. Thank you.
Once again, we have Nicol, Daniel, and of course, Emanuela. Thank you so much. Thank you for being so candid, and thank you